Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Beyond Max Q. I'm Mollie Jahner, your host, and I am joined today by Amin Jagani. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Probably not. Okay. Oh, all right. We got it. I feel like I want to be very respectful of people's names, and I very rarely get it correct on the first go. But he is one of the co-founders of the Hygeia Group, which is kind of a biotech consultancy. They invest in biotech companies. They help them with their digital marketing, with kind of their strategy and their go-to-market. And he really is in that Series A and beyond space. And so it's a privilege to have you here today, sir, to talk a little bit about what you look for in companies and what you're building, because I think we have a lot of founders in the audience that would like to hear your perspective. So with that, please introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you. As feeling is mutual, Molly. Thanks for having me on. Yes, I've been in the biotech pharma industry for the past 25 years, and all of it within the clinical research and pharmaceutical drug development space. And so I have worked for big pharma as well as for contract research organizations. I'm also currently working in academia, helping put together a drug development curriculum for training physicians who want to become clinical investigators. And our company, Hygeia Group, provides biotech consultancy services to early stage biotech companies that are Series A biotech companies that are starting out, in the biotech space.
Wonderful. So I would love to hear a little bit about what you're funding right now. What are the things that get you excited when you look at the biotech space?
Yeah, so what we do is with respect to biotechs, we looking for companies that have a solid product that they want to be able to commercialize. And one of the things that we look for in biotech companies is the product market fit, right? So these could be academic institutions that have a molecule that they want to be able to bring over to the proof of concept stage. And so what we need to do is essentially what we ask is to see any of the preclinical data that they
Mhm.
have. And then we also provide services to venture capital firms as well that are looking to do due diligence on potential partners as well.
Okay.
Depending on the stage they come in at, if they're coming at the seed stage or whether they're coming at sort of the Series A, Series B, their needs might be different, right? And so
Mhm.
we can come in and potentially look at their product and see if there is potential market viability. And we also do, valuations for biotech companies as well.
Okay. So what does that process look like?
So essentially, what that means is if there is a company, for example, we're working with a company out of Austria that's looking for about $8 million, 8 million euros in funding. They've got a molecule that's in the antibody drug conjugate space, and they
Mhm.
want to be able to, raise Series A financing. So they've been able to, show some good data. They want essentially help for a biotech consultancy to come in and help them put together a drug development plan
Mhm.
and to also assist them with, as a fractional CXO. And so we will come in and we'll essentially help them scale up.
Mhm.
When it comes to valuations, because these companies tend to be early stage,
Mhm.
we literally looking at their product portfolio.
Mhm.
We're looking at the molecule itself to see what kind of efficacy data we have so far.
Mhm.
Typically, in the early stage, we don't. It's basically animal studies, and we just help them lay out the path towards commercialization, right? And so we also assist them by putting them in contact with funding sources as well.
Okay.
So that could be, VCs, that could be family offices, that could be private
Mhm.
equity, and so on.
Mhm. Wonderful. No, that's great. I think there's a lot of people that would want to kind of understand what that process looks like. I think when you talk about commercialization for biotech too, it's very different than commercialization for a lot of other industries. And I would love for you to touch on that just a little bit. Just
Yeah.
talk us through what that process looks like.
So biotech is a very risky enterprise. I mean, if you look at the timeline to develop a new molecule,
Hmm.
starting from, preclinical research through to commercialization, that's about a $2 billion franchise, right? And it's very expensive, very complicated. And so and it's fraught with risk, right?
Hmm.
So when it comes to commercializing, most of the biotech companies, will probably be like founders that have come out of academia, for example, or spin-offs, and they have a molecule that they want to be able to commercialize. Their goal is to be able to conduct first in human studies and then be able to, get to the next milestone, which is the proof of concept, which is called phase 2 studies. And so if they can see a signal in phase 2,
Mm-hmm.
the signal meaning, an efficacy or basically be able to, show a statistical significance in their primary objective. Now, our
Mm-hmm.
area of specialization is in precision oncology, cancer genomics, rare diseases, and gene therapy, right? So in precision
Mm-hmm.
oncology, you may be looking at primary objectives like overall survival or progression-free survival. And so the
Mm-hmm.
goal here is to be able to take this molecule through to phase 2, 2A, and be able to show that it is showing a statistically meaningful difference
Mm-hmm.
from a comparator from placebo. And if they can see that signal, right, that's where, now you will see many of these biotech companies take a couple of different paths. They might actually either potentially be acquired at that stage, or they might partner up with a large pharma company to be able to, do a stream of royalties where they could continue to develop the product in partnership with the large pharma company, and then potentially, have some royalties down the road once it gets commercialized as well. So it's a little bit different, for example, from the IT space or from other
Right.
spaces as well. A lot of different complexity and a lot of different challenges.
Well, and do you introduce to the partnerships too, like the partners, like are the larger like is that something you provide as well as a part of your
We
entity?
can, right? So, I mean,
Okay.
we have one company right now that has been working in the phase 2, phase 1, phase 2 stage. In biotech, we call this there's a valley of death, right? Essentially, what that means is, you've got enough funding to get you through a certain point, and now
Mm-hmm.
you need additional funding, right? And so at that point in time, you just need a little bit of leg room or a little bit of room to be able to go ahead and show that initial readout. And so we can potentially introduce biotech companies to larger players, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that could be at symposiums, at conferences.
Mm-hmm.
We could potentially partner with them at the JP Morgan, which is, one of the big ones that happens once a year as
Mm-hmm.
well, and bring them in contact with these, sources of funding. And so that could involve essentially preparing them for these different, opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
We also have source of funding not only in the U.S. but even in the in the Middle East,
Mm-hmm.
where potential investors are interested in investing in biotech. So we will work with the founders and make sure they have their pitch correct, right, and be able to make sure that they can potentially help them with their poster, or help them with their their road shows to be able to go out there and get additional funding and potentially partner with the um, larger pharma companies that might be interested in the product.
Yes, no, that's great. I mean, I think it's really end to end. You kind of help them from beginning all the way to a
Right.
partnership or exit, which I think is so good, needed. Because, investing these days, it feels like to me, like when you talk to VCs, or it's really kind of like a slot machine. You just put money in and then you wait to get money out versus like
Yeah.
an active partnership, which is why I really appreciate what you guys are building, because
Yeah.
I think it is a little different like that. And because you have such a story yourself, would you mind telling a little bit about your background and kind of what got you into all of this?
Yeah, so by background, I'm a pharmacist. I graduated, about 25 years ago with the retail space in community pharmacy, and then got an opportunity to get into the pharmaceutical industry as a scientist
Hmm.
for a company called Procter and Gamble. And from there, just built a career within the clinical research and drug development space, having worked with larger pharma companies as well. For me, the biggest attraction to the pharma industry is being able to make a difference, in a large scale. The retail level, in the medical clinic pharmacy space, you are able to make a difference to patients, one patient at a time, whether you're helping
Hmm.
them with their drug therapy. But when you come and work with a pharma, company, right, depending on the outcome of the molecule that you're helping with, over the past
Hmm.
25 years, there are chances when you could potentially, get that home run. And when that
Hmm.
happens back in, I think, 2015, I was, for example, working with a smaller biotech that was working on an ovarian cancer therapy. And, they got an amazing phase 2 readout, efficacy, and, they got
Hmm.
acquired, and now the drug is out there. And for me, it comes full circle, right? I still practice within the pharmacy field, and to see that product now at the dispensing when I had actually a role to play with it when it was being developed, right?
Mhm.
Same with when I used to work in clinical drug development at Eli Lilly and Company, many years ago.
Mhm.
Those products now we dispense in the pharmacy, right? Which we were involved with way back when they were just a number or a registration, right? So I
Mhm.
think that's really the most fulfilling part. And then also to be able to, make a difference in the
Yes.
unmet medical need that's out there.
Mhm. No, well said. And I know you work with a lot of entrepreneurs. You are an entrepreneur. I would love for you to talk about your biggest successes and maybe one failure that you kind of learned from, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so one of the companies I started back in 2007 was a contract research organization. At that time, the CRO space was just starting to grow, and there
Mhm.
was a lot of outsourcing to emerging economies. And so I was able to partner with this contract research organization in India that was going to provide biostatistics and data management
Right.
services. And the idea was we were going to be the North American arm of this company, Kinetica Biosciences International. For about a couple of years, things were extremely fast, quick. We picked
Mhm.
up, we had a lot of clients, and then we hit the financial crisis back in 2008, 2009.
Mhm.
And what ended up happening was literally business dried up, right? And we had to let go of people. We had to file for Chapter 11. And so, big learning experience for us at that point in time. My next company that I started was actually a medical clinic, a pharmacy, and a wellness center, but also had clinical trials running through it. And that was quite successful. We were able to exit, to a private equity group back in
Mhm.
2015. This third venture that I started back during COVID times, again, the opportunity was right there. During COVID, everything was shut down.
Mhm.
And so there were, investigators, clinics out there that were really, really struggling. And so we put together a package where we could come in and assist them with their financing needs. And that kind of grew into biotech consultancy. And, now we provide sort of a whole range of services as well.
Very cool. That's amazing. I love that. And I love how you've really stayed true to yourself and your mission like throughout your whole career, which I think is speaks volumes because a lot of times people, oh, pivot here, pivot there, but you've just kind of like stayed the course even with setbacks, which I think is a testament to what you believe.
Yeah, I think, it's all about depth of expertise, right? The last thing we want to do is sort of be a jack of all trades, but really a master of none. And so I think what I have been able to do is really stick with clinical research drug development for 25 years, help
Mhm.
bring new drugs to market as a drug hunter, drug maker, right? And then also now adding on the financing piece to it, So when I completed the, postgraduate training in investment finance at the Ivy School of Business, the whole idea was to at some point, and that's a project we're working towards, is put together
Yeah.
a hedge fund. And that hedge fund we want to be able to put together will be one where we can use our skills and our edge within pharma biotech to be able to make those decisions that will give us hopefully an alpha over and above what the market returns are. Right. And so
Right.
I think that's the opportunity that I am looking for, is to be able to, provide investors an opportunity to get
Mhm.
great returns in pharma biotech using our expertise over the past 25 years.
Well, and I mean, if you wouldn't mind just talking a little bit about, the next 3 years, where do you see yourself, but also where do you see the industry? I'd love to get predictions.
So the industry, I think, that's a very loaded question. One of the
True.
biggest, challenges everybody will agree right now is that the pharma biotech industry is going through a tremendous amount of headwinds.
Mm.
Um, One of the biggest headwinds is the patent expirations. So we call that a patent cliff. From starting from 2026 to 2027, and a big amount of patent expirations happening in 2028 through to
Mm.
2030. And these are molecules that provide, some of them are blockbuster molecules, some of them are biologics, some of them are small molecules. They bring revenues to the big companies, right?
Yeah.
And so many of these are going to be losing their patent. And for the viewers in the pharma industry, we have about close to a 20-year patent, right,
Mm.
on molecules.
Okay.
And so the moment the patent, expires, you've got a whole bunch of generic companies out there literally waiting to reverse engineer
Really?
and come up with a cheaper version of the drug. And
Yeah.
so what we then have is what we call generic erosion, right? And these pharma companies that are relying on the revenues facing this huge patent cliff, and some of them haven't been proactive enough to replace the products in their pipeline, right, with new molecules. And so there is going to be, my opinion anyhow, a fair amount of consolidation within the
Interesting.
next 3 to 5 years in the pharma industry. Just look at the cell and gene therapy space right now with companies like Bluebird Bio that are struggling.
Right. Yes.
And so I think from a pharma, and in there are opportunities as well. One of the other headwinds they're facing is artificial intelligence.
Hmm.
Artificial intelligence, I think, is going to have a tremendous amount of impact on the pharma companies because consider, for example, contract research organizations. They provide people, right? Their main skill is people. And here you have artificial intelligence, agentic AI that can do a lot of
Hmm.
the work that a project leader, project manager can do for pharma
Yeah.
companies. And so those companies that are not prepared to be able to adopt and to run with AI are going to unfortunately face a tremendous amount of challenges and hits to their top line. So I
Right.
think so from my perspective, to be able to position, they say that at the intersection of opportunity and preparation is where success can play, is to be able to acquire the knowledge skill set in artificial intelligence. And so I've taken a fair amount of postgraduate training in that area, and then also be able to reach out to the folks within the investment community to see if we can set up this hedge fund that will take advantage of the trends that are coming in, investments where we could potentially acquire companies at a bargain over the next 5 to 10 years. So it's going to be an exciting time. Exactly. Right. I mean, so you've so while the brand companies are going to face tremendous amount of challenges, the generic companies that are going to be able to, produce these drugs in a cheaper fashion, are not only going to benefit, but also the patient, the consumer will benefit as well, right? Now, all of that, notwithstanding the tariff and all the other kind of challenges we are currently facing, right? Those are some other headwinds that we are contending with as well. But yes, on the aggregate, when we have more opportunities for patients and consumers, better for them, right? In terms of costs going down and more access to drugs on the formulary, right? So that's definitely a great point. Yes. Yeah, one of the most interesting, and so I read a fair amount of work within the business sector. I read works that are within the pharma sector as well, um, and then I think just general knowledge books as well, right? And so the one book that I haven't had a chance to read right now is by this investor called Howard Marks. It's called The Market Cycle. And again, the reason being because, there is going to be a tremendous amount of change within the stock market as well, right? And so how can we be prepared for, changes in the stock market? Are we going to have a recession? Are we going to have some kind of correction? And so I really want to get my hands on this book from Howard Marks and learn about some of the cycles that will happen and how we can take advantage of it. And then from a fun perspective, I love history. I'm a history buff, so I read a lot of and I was exactly. And then biographies. So I just recently completed a biography of Benjamin Franklin, Albert Einstein, and now I'm reading Elon Musk. So hopefully that'll be a fun. Just got started on that. Yeah, yeah. Have you read it? That's right. Yep, yep. Thanks, Molly. The pleasure's all mine.